We're going to start out today with our 2365 and 2366. Those are our advanced venipuncture training aids. If you've seen these before or you used them, what's nice about them is that they are a small and compact model. Everything you need for accessing is in here. You don't need to get a separate fluid bag. You don't need to get a separate fluid stand. They're quick and easy to set up. The price point's much lower than a lot of the full-size IV arms, which can make it more economical if you're teaching a larger group of students. You have 30 students, 40 students at a time, and you want to get more people through or more reps per student in a short period of time. This is a really good option for that. And then where we see a lot of the schools using this is they will use these to get the mass number of people through and even to do trade, their final checkoff. We also will see schools where they'll partner these with the more expensive full-size IV arms, and they can get practice on these at a lower price per access, and then they can move to the IV arm for that final 1 or 2 accesses where they actually need to get checked off, especially if they're going to be going through the entire process, including like putting on a tourniquet. That does 2 things. One is it gets them through the class quicker, and then it also lowers that overall cost because you're going to get more accesses on the lower price point model, and you're going to get fewer accesses on that higher price point model, which will give that $600 to $900 IV arm a greater life. So again, if you haven't seen this is our 2365. It comes in both the light and dark skin, and we're going to go through and show you kind of how to set it up, how to use it, and then we'll go over some other things related to the product and answer any questions. After that, we're going to touch on our ultrasound, one of our ultrasound models, and then after that, if anyone has questions on either of those or anything else, we're happy to answer those. We're going to go ahead and show you how to set this up. So like I said before, this comes in one easy container. There's nothing else you need. So when you get the model, all you're going to do is there is a little latch here. You just push it in, lift the model up. Once you have it up, you're basically ready to start going. You can see here you have your blood. You've got a fluid bubble trap over here. And then if you look at the model, you're going to see, you can kind of see 3 veins that are light blue, here, here, and here. And then over here, if I can get the light right, you might see the slight raised area. There's a vein right there. It's raised, so you can palpate it fairly easily, but you're not going to see it like these. One of the things we definitely want to point out is this model isn't necessarily for people that have been accessing for years and years and years and know what they're doing. This is going to be a model that's really geared towards those people that have never accessed before, that need to build up their basic skills, build up a little bit of confidence, so they can start on this model here and really get in that practice that they need. It's also helpful for somebody that has accessed for years, especially if they're going to be switching devices. If you're going from one needle style to another, maybe the catheter advances differently or something else is slightly different in the way you need to hold it or use it. It's a great way for the practice and just see how your hand is going to work with that one the best. On the front of the model here, you can see little dots, and those dots are basically going to be the internal lumen of each one of those veins. So what you'll see here is that we have on this side here, you've got your smaller vein, your medium, and then these 2 veins over here, those are going to be the same size. The difference again being that this one right here, you can kind of see the blue through it, so it's fairly easy to see. This other one over here, they're definitely just going to have to feel and palpate that vein in order to make sure that they're going to go into the right spot. So now that you've seen the different veins and you've seen where you're wanting to access, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get this model ready to go. So like I mentioned before, it already comes with the blood supplied. Now when you get it, there will actually be a piece of tape in shipping that goes over this just to keep this in place during shipping. Just remove that tape. Next thing you're going to want to do is take this bubble trap. You can you just pull it out, the cap that's on it, you undo the cap, place it back in here, and just snap until you feel it pop into place. Take your blood bag over here, turn that stopcock, and you're going to see right now, you can see that blood flowing through there at the bottom. The first time you use it, it's going to always fill up really easy because there's no little air bubbles in there. If at any point when you're using this model over time and it doesn't start to prime immediately, if you just give it a slight push, and I'm talking a very light push, you'll see it immediately start to fill with blood. Over here now, I should have caught this right when it happened, but you can see that the blood's come up here. What that means is that now all of the veins are now full of blood. There's no air in the system. You've got that little bit of pressure built up in there, and it's going to be ready to go. So now we're going to go ahead and we can go ahead and actually show you us using it. We did a suture video last week and or a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things I definitely had to mention was we are not clinical. So my technique in suturing wasn't the best, and my technique in starting an IV is not the best. I only know from talking with people and trying, so definitely don't pay attention to that. But what's nice again is you have these different veins. So somebody who hasn't accessed before, they can start on this big vein. I can hit this big vein. I could get friends of mine to hit this. They could hit it. It's very easy. The big thing we want people to focus on with this is not so much that they're accessing and getting a blood return and getting the catheter in the correct location. It really is doing it the correct way. So if I'm the learner and somebody's teaching me, they can make sure that my technique is correct and the steps I'm following are correct. And then if I get the access, that's a bonus. But as long as I'm doing it the correct way, getting better and better will be kind of the goal on this. And then I can move down to the smaller veins. So you're able to go in here, you can find your vein, you can go through all the steps of wiping it down, apply traction to it. And let me make sure, yeah, there we go. We'll just go in here. And I don't know if you guys can see there, but I am getting a little bit of a blood return. And if I come out here, you can definitely see the blood starting to fill up at the end of the catheter as I'm pulling the needle back out. And I'm just going to kind of do this so you guys can get the visual on it. Let's advance the catheter all the way in. The catheter will go in, and you can see now that we've got our little bit of blood return there. When you go ahead and pull the catheter out, you will get a little bit of blood on the surface of the model. And you can go ahead and they can go ahead and put their gauze on there just like they would. They could go ahead and actually take a piece of tape and put it on like they would on a patient. I will say this material doesn't let bandages stick to it as well as some materials. So it's not going to stick as well as it would to human skin, but you definitely can go through that step and get that little bit of practice in. Like I was saying, then you can go and you can try other veins, different sizes. You can try different techniques to see what works best for you and basically get in a lot of that practice. So one of the things we also want to touch on is the breaking down of the model. So the way that the setup was, you can basically do the breakdown kind of the same way. So I'm going to turn this like this. So you're going to do everything you did to do the setup. You're just going to do it in reverse. Let's just move this right here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to want to pull on the stopcock here. You're going to see the blood that's over here in the bubble trap. As soon as I take this blood bag off of this hook up here, it's actually going to start to drain. And it's going to take, probably 30 seconds or so, and we'll just let it drain. You're going to know that the model is fully drained when you see it go clear right down here. So again, if you're doing a large number of these in a class, you can do all of them and then come back and your first one should be completely drained. And then you can start just putting them all away. So you're not actually sitting and waiting for something to happen. So usually it's about 20, 30 seconds. The model will go clear down there. If it doesn't, sometimes you will have to just lift it just a couple of inches off the table. And in that case there, the last little bit of blood will come out. On this model, one of the big questions we get, we actually have two big questions that we get a lot. One is going to be the needle size to use, and we recommend using a 20 gauge or smaller. We do know a few customers that they don't use anything bigger than a 22 gauge. We definitely recommend 20 or 22 gauge needles. I do know people that have used 16 and 18 gauges. It's not going to ruin the model on your first access most likely, but anytime you start using a big needle like that, if you're emergency medicine or something along those lines, know that it is going to greatly reduce the life of the model. The other one that we get a lot of is how many sticks can I get in this model? That can be tricky because it does vary depending on how careful people are with it, but we're pretty comfortable telling people with a 20 gauge and moving your access site, you're going to get over 3,000 accesses in the model. I've definitely seen people get a lot more than that. I've also seen people get less than that. Again, part of it's going to be how much care you have with the model and how rough people are, but you should be able to get that many. Now, it hasn't gone completely clear here, so I'm just going to lift it up a little bit, and I'm going to block that camera view. So let's go ahead and just lift it up. Actually, it is empty because there's no blood up in there. So in this case, I'm going to close that stopcock off, set it back down, and I'll put the blood bag up on the hook, put it into the connector here, snap it into place, remove the bubble trap, close it, put that into place. And it's really important to make sure that when you're closing it, that you do make sure both of these parts are snapped back into place. Due to how soft the material on the skin is, if you don't snap those back into place all the way and you close the model up, you can leave an imprint on the skin that most likely is not going to come out. And then all you're going to do is just close it up, and now it's ready to be stored. Like we mentioned earlier, it does come in a dark skin as well. So you're going to have both the light and the dark. Models are going to be the same price. They're $311 each, coming with everything in there. And then another big thing that we get from some people is, what do I do when the model kind of dies on me, or it's no longer able to be accessed? And the thing that we used to have on those is we used to actually make it so that you had to return the model to us in order to get that replaced. And a couple of years ago, we started sending out to where we send out the replacement skin and veins to you, along with a little bit of glue to glue it back down to the base. And then we have a short video that's a few minutes long, goes through it step by step on how you can remove that previous skin and vein, put the new one down, and then reattach it. And so you're going to be able to do that after you've done it a few times. It takes 3 to 5 minutes. It's really quick and easy. And then you're going to be able to get a model, basically a brand new model for less than half the price, or about half the price of a new one. So yeah, so that's the 2365 model. We do have smaller, less expensive kind of versions of those that are dry. That'd be our 1352 and 1354. Again, those come in light and dark skin as well. And they're going to have 2 veins and 4 veins. There's no fluid in them though. So for a lot of people that are actually doing training on starting an IV, they definitely want to get the fluid, whether it's the ability to get a flashback, or one of the things I didn't mention on this is you can infuse it as well. So if you're somebody that needs to practice the infusion of whatever it is, you can do this on the model. The only thing you're going to do is if you infuse a lot, you're going to fill up the blood bag. But we have had a couple of customers actually hook up a larger fluid bag, allowing them to do more infusion. So when you're going to be storing the model, you definitely want to drain it just like I showed you there. If you're somebody that uses the model a lot, store it like that, pull it out a few days later and use it, pull it out a week later and use it, that's fine. If you're somebody that's at a school or someplace else where you're going to use the model once and then you're not going to use it for 6 months because you're going to use it, a couple times a year and that's it, which I know is pretty common, you definitely want to drain it. And then I might actually recommend disconnecting the blood bag and flushing the veins with saline or distilled water to keep them really clean in there. One of the things that we see on all different training aids that are out there is if they're stored for long periods of time, depending on where they're stored and the temperature they're stored at, we have seen where mold can grow over time. That usually takes 8 months to a year for that to happen. But again, it's something that might help it extend the life of the model. As far as temperature storage, the big thing with our material here is you just don't want to store it over like 120 degrees. So basically the only time it's going to run into that we see is the occasional sales rep for a company who puts it in their trunk in like Arizona and it gets really hot. So as long as it's stored at normal, room temperature, that 60 to 85 degree range, you're going to be fine. Once you get hotter than 100, 120, then you're going to start to have potential issues, but I don't see that being a problem. So yes, the blood bag is refillable. I believe that is an 80 cc blood bag. I think that's how much we put in it. I believe we put 100 into our one on the Chester, and I think we put 80 cc's into that one. You can get a little bit more blood in there. You could probably get 100 to 110 cc's. That is going to be pretty full though, but you can probably get that much in there. Our blood, we sell the blood by either the quart or the gallon. A gallon of blood's like $20. we do definitely see people quite often that they go out and they use some other kind of a blood they find, or they just use food coloring, which by all means, if that's what you have to do it. But I will say that if you stain the model by using those bloods, it will not be covered under warranty. Our blood will not stain our materials. It also won't stain your clothes for the most part. We have not found it to stain any clothes as long as you get to them quickly and wash them. So you can get it onto your shirt or whatnot, and it should be okay. Again, I'm not going to say it's going to not stain every material, but the shirts I've personally gotten on, it hasn't stained it. All right. Well, I think with that, I think we'll kind of sign off. And again, just thanks to everyone for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions after this, feel free to reach out to myself or Brandy. We're happy to hop on a phone call with you, send you an email with the information, or if it works, hop on a quick Zoom call or whatnot and actually show you something if that might be an easier way to do it. So thank you, everyone.